Alright, I'm just going to turn off the air conditioner and close the door because it's weird. Alright, so we're going to be live painting. I've already done the sketch for this one. I'm hoping I'll be able to broadcast this to the iPad so I can actually see what I'm doing. But we'll see. There's a little bit of a delay. Alright. So this is a unprimed board I got off my sister. I think something she just had lying around that she didn't really want. So I decided I was going to recycle it into a painting. And I don't see where I put my can with my brushes. Where'd my brush can go? Oh, it's right here. This is not my normal setup because of the restrictions of how few plugs I have in this house. I don't even know if you can hear me, so we'll see. There we go. I guess you can't hear me. Alright, so let us start. What color do I want to start with? Let's start with gray for these pigeons. I've been kind of working on these pigeons a little bit. I'm going to try and sit as straight as possible so no one is horrified by my actual posture. I don't know why I'm so into these like little stubby brushes, but I am. Normally, when you do a painting like this, you'd like to prime it. I've been painting on a piece of cloth for Camp Fatima of New Jersey, and it's been driving me crazy. So I just wanted to draw on a firm surface. So I'm just using this right now as my firm surface. I'm already losing my sketch a bit. That's okay, I'll just use another pigeon for reference later. I should water this. Yeah, I should probably water this down a little bit, make a little wash. Pretend like I'm a real artist. Alright. Pretend like I've been an artist and educator for 15 years. You know, like I actually know what I'm doing. I've been trying to add, I've been doing this whole series about called Cryptid Mountain. Basically, it's the story of, it's my own kind of twisted version of the Jersey Devil story, but kind of loosely based on Dante's Inferno. And so I've been scripting what's probably going to be the last episode, possibly the last 2 episodes, depending on how much we actually get done. And I say we, just me and the other cast, but mostly me as the sole writer of the thing. And life is just been getting in the way. You know, I've had to actually move. It's all based on this sculpture I made. I had to physically move the sculpture out of the gallery. And then, because the gallery had to close due to financial reasons, and also it's just, you know, personal reasons I don't want to get into because not my business, but everything's better now. But that means that I'm going to probably take this show on the road, but trying to deal with getting ready for camp and trying to get ready for moving Cryptid Mountain and then writing the proposal so I could maybe sneak this into some people's homes has taken a lot more time than I've been expecting. So I apologize to my patrons. I'm definitely going to dedicate this especially to my YouTube patron Brian. I don't know if I should be using his last name. He probably wouldn't care, but I've never directly asked him, so I'm a bit of a privacy freak, so I feel like unless someone specifically says, hey, shout me out, it's cool, baby, I am not going to take that risk. Yeah, one problem with painting something that isn't primed is that the surface usually soaks up a ton of paint, but the best part about painting something that isn't primed is that you can like experiment with the surface. Some of this is sanded. So like if I was a real I am a real artist. I just say this when I'm joking. Like when I'm purposely not doing the work because of either sloth or whatever. Nor if I was doing this the right way, I would have sanded this, I would have primed it, I would have sanded that and primed it again, then sanded that down. So I got like a decently smooth texture, but I don't feel up to doing that. I don't care. And I'm just trying to bang this thing out. And I probably won't even finish this today. Even though I notoriously work very quickly. I just don't feel up to finishing a whole painting. I'm probably only going to do this for like an hour. Considering there's only 2 of you watching. Feel free to leave a comment in the chat. And don't worry if you didn't see this live. I'm going to try and do this probably in a week or so. Not while I'm away, obviously. But I will try and... Ooh, this celery one looks a little bit cooler. So yeah, I don't know if you can even see the sketch. But there's an alien here, and there's 2 pigeons, because the pigeons are kind of... I think the pigeons are going to stand in for people, because pigeons are like one of those species that is like uniquely evolved to deal with the insanity of human society. You know, like rats and cats and dogs and squirrels, ravens, seagulls. These are all animals that like we're not obviously not built for human society, but like their what do you call it? Their John kind of works with our stuff. Their vibe vibes with us. Their vibe is vibey, if you will. I probably should have had a little bit more white to this. I've been messing around with so many different colors lately, and a lot of paint that doesn't really belong to me. So my paint collection is in disarray. That's all right. It's not so bad. There are worse things. There are plenty of worse things. But I need to I already hate this setup. I feel like I'm twisted. I don't feel super comfortable like this. I just need I need a better power strip and an extension cord and like a permanent setup in my bedroom, I think. But whatever. This is probably need a better camera too. Like the way this is set up, you can like just see the knob on my cheapo like 5 below my cheapo 5 below tripod here, but I don't. I tried to fix it, but it was going to get in the way of the controls. I really just need to have a separate camera and not use my phone for this, but that's what we're doing, baby. The best camera you can get is the one that's already like in your pocket, my guy, so you gotta forgive yourself sometimes. And I have Pink Pony Club in my head too. My phone, or my CarPlay disconnected from my phone for a moment. And of course, Pink Pony Club popped on, whatever radio station I or my children had set up, probably my children, because I can't imagine I would have had anything but WFMU chosen on my car radio, but I genuinely like that Chappell Roan song. I like a lot of the Chappell Roan songs, kind of digging Chappell Roan. I like her whole vibe. She's very creative. It feels really campy in a good way. Like her stage theatrics are wonderful. She seems like a really good performer, and the songs kind of hold up too. Like, I'm actually shocked by how talent. I don't know. I'm assuming she wrote them all, but this is 2024. I really shouldn't be so naive. But I love the way she writes them, and they're great. I don't know. Like, I'm just trying here to. Trying to make these pigeons kind of look like this pigeon. I should just copy this. I don't like stealing my own work, but this is kind of what I've been doing lately. So, one bad thing about acrylic is it dries really quickly. But it's pretty durable, which is nice for someone like me who's not super careful and thoughtful about the way they do things at first. Oh, I'm trying to use this big bucket of white. Why am I using a new white? There we go. And yeah, this is sweet now, actually, and I'm enjoying this. I think this is leftover from my big mural project, my backdrop project. I'll definitely be posting some of that up at a later date once I get my life back in order. I mean, things are great. It's just things have been busy. I find that, like, I get real bored and I end up getting involved in all these projects, and then past me gets involved in all these projects, and then future me, and actually really, in a sense, present me is kind of at the mercy of all the commitments I made for myself, which is fine. Like, whatever, I'm a grown man. I'm 41. I really should know better, but I don't. And everything always takes way longer than you'd want it to, and that's okay. It's no one's fault but my own. But well, this time I don't think it really was my fault. So I do this backdrop for Camp Fatima, and they recommended the past artist Jim recommended doing everything the size of 2 queen bed sheets is the size he's always kind of used, which is fine. I actually think it's a really nice size. But I had just been when I did it last year, I was like, oh, I know I got a smart idea. I'm going to do it on canvas. So I got a thin piece of canvas that was the same size, and bada boom, bada bing, it was great. Only problem being that it was very heavy, and it was a little bit harder to hang than it had been in past years. And I kind of felt bad about that. Like, I don't like making the other volunteers have to, like, bend over backwards to accommodate my mess. So I was like, you know what? I got an idea. I'm going to actually do it on the bed sheets. And that was a terrible idea. It was a great idea. Like, Jim is an actual painter. Like, I paint, right? Like, I paint all the time. I draw and paint and cut and sculpt and saw and glue every day. I'm pretty sure if I didn't, my brain would wonder what was going on or ask if I was dying. But I'm not a traditionally trained painter. I was very anti-painter when I went to Rutgers. I went to Mason Gross Art School. I kind of felt like all of the painters seemed super pretentious. So I was like, I'm just going to stick to sculpture. And now all I do is paint. All I do is paint and teach children painting, and it is like a cosmic joke. I play it on myself, and which is fine because, like, I've learned to love it. It's awesome in its own way, but it can be a bit much when you are desperately trying to do things that you never really learned how to do officially. I'm not a traditional painter. I never learned how to do this in the traditional way. I basically draw with paint, which to the Whoa. Oh, I thought this was going to be more even. Alright, let's wipe this down. This is definitely not going to be the set coat here. I thought this is going to be the... I wanted this to be the backdrop. This might have to be the alien. No, this is going to be the grass. Like, not for nothing. There's a reason why painters do stuff in a certain order, in a certain way, because the way the chemistry of the paint and the physics of the actual paint and the way it layers and doing tints and shadows and doing layers and using different trying to create depth or the illusion of depth. You know, people have been doing this for like thousands of years and they can't have it down, and me thinking that like, I'll just figure it out. I will figure it out, but it's like banging my face against a brick wall that I built for myself. It's like, I don't know. I make things harder than they have to be, but that's okay. It's all part of the process. This is why like I do a lot of collage. It's just easier for me to like, oh, I like the color of this piece of paper. I'm going to cut it out and glue it down and hope it don't fade. I kind of like this weird texture of this thing. I think this is supposed to be a tray that my sister bought for some kind of like party or something. I don't know, or some way of organizing her house. I don't know. And then she dumped it on my mom, or she used it to get stuff to my mom's house, and then they were going to save it. And I was like, I'm going to steal this. I'm going to make this into art. And that was only 3 years ago, and now we're finally here. I'm finally using this thing. This piece of wood is definitely older than it's not older than my kids, but it's definitely older than my nephews. All right. Oh, kind of like that. So I'm trying to go for like a night feel, and I'm trying to remember to not paint over the beaks of these pigeons, but essentially this is going to be the grass. I mean, I really just want to paint. I'm going to not have a lot of time for my own artwork for the next week or so. So I just want to bang something out today that is going to feel fun and feel like me, and it doesn't have to make anyone else happy, because I'm going to be spending my whole week trying to make other people happy, and that's fine, but that's a different kind of creativity. I'll sneak in some stuff that makes me giggle. That's fine. I always figure it out. I always insert some kind of personal weirdness into everything I do. Some kind of inside joke or some kind of like irony that is like not as smart as I think it is, but it's still smarter than it needs to be. But, you know, that's just the nature of being the artist. It's like, you know, that's why artists are all weird little tyrants in their own little studios. But I just finished watching a movie, and I was like, no, you gotta do something productive for your art career, because you're now only in one. No, I'm in 0 shows right now. Right? Yeah, I'm in no shows right now. There's a bunch of open calls that all wanted to have me deliver stuff when I was going to be out in the woods, so I had to bail on those, which is really stinky because I really wanted to be part of those shows, but and then I submitted to a few things. Honestly, I've just been kind of focusing on work and the Cryptid Mountain stuff. If you want to check out the first 5 episodes of Cryptid Mountain, they're on the YouTube page. If you're watching this on YouTube, which I don't think I'm going to put this anywhere else but YouTube, but it's all there. Just search David LaMorte and Cryptid Mountain. If you don't know what that is, Cryptid Mountain is basically a pretend little world that I made on a mountain. Cryptid, for those who don't know, I use that word all the time, like people should know what I'm talking about. It's basically a hidden animal. An animal that people are not totally sure if it does exist. The best example I can give is like Bigfoot. There are people who think Bigfoot is real. There's people who think Bigfoot is not real. There's no definitive proof either way. I mean, how do you prove something isn't? It's hard to prove something doesn't exist. It's way harder to prove something that doesn't exist than proving something that does exist. Because once you have that real definitive evidence, then there you go, blah blah blah. But the history of cryptozoology is really fun to me because I really love urban legends and other very common animals to us today used to be cryptids, like the the silverback gorilla was thought to be a cryptid because for a long time excuse me, I said people, but European scientists never saw them, so they weren't sure they existed. There are animals like the coelacanth where we thought they were extinct, and people were saying, well, we're seeing them, seeing them, and it managed to not evolve for thousands and thousands of years, just swim around in the ocean. I guess that's what perfect evolutionary biology looks like, whether you are prepared for it or not. Snowflake. My favorite one is the panda. Like, people would describe the panda to the West, and the West was like, that makes no sense. And it took them years to be able to, like, study the panda, like, realistically. Not realistically, officially, because they lived in this kind of remote area of China, and due to racism, people didn't believe the local Chinese people that this dang thing was real. I mean, look at the platypus, right? People thought the platypus was fake for a really long time, too, because it looked like a taxidermy joke, right? It looked like half duck, half otter, half beaver, and it laid eggs. Like, that making no sense. But you know what? Science doesn't care about your feelings, and we have to be prepared when we get new data to update how we feel about things, or not how we feel about things, but what we know. The world does not care if you want it to be round or not. It's just round, and you got to deal, folks. So I don't know. Like, I see it, like, some of the cryptids I love are personally like the Jersey Devil, because I'm a New Jersey native, and Bigfoot's fun. World champion in hide and seek. 40 years in a row. You know what I mean? Like, I love these things. They're great. I seriously doubt the Jersey Devil is real. I have a lot of skepticism about the existence of big feet, or Bigfoots, excuse me. That's what we would call multiple Bigfoots would be Bigfoots, not big feet. However, I want them to be real. That would be so cool. All right, I think I'm done with this green. I gotta add a little yellow. Now, the real question is, do I have enough yellow? I'm gonna try to make this little alien feller a lighter yellow. I guess only slightly. I used so much yellow in the past week. I'm like running out. Oh man, I should have like tubes of it somewhere. A while ago I switched to liquid paint because I've been watering down my paint for decades, and then I was like, oh, I can just buy liquid paint, liquid acrylic. And everyone's like, yeah, dum-dum. And I was like, oh, sorry, I just used the stuff I always bought and just like watered it down because that was just the way I did things, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I guess it was kind of broken, actually, my inability to paint the way I wanted. I mean, I do enjoy using heavy-bodied acrylic. There is some fun in that. I still have a ton of it, considering I don't ever buy it anymore. It's a little absurd how much I still have. But, sorry, I'm looking for a yellow to mix into this green. The problem with yellow is that it's so, the pigment, whatever they put in the pigment, is so weak compared to, oh my gosh, it just looks like in the tray it looks so much lighter. Oh my gosh. And my glove. I'm gonna have to figure this out. I'm actually really annoyed by it. Maybe if I just add yellow on top of this, I don't know. Whatever. This is just gonna be kind of like the wash anyway. I'll go back into this as another time. As I'm expanding the whole Cryptid Mountain universe. So, let me get back to that. Cryptid Mountain, basically, it's a story of the Jersey Devil, the Leeds Devil, how it was born in Leeds Point, New Jersey, and how it was cast out by its mother, and it's been haunting the Pine Barrens, a huge swath of land in South Jersey. Pine Barrens is a real place filled with all kinds of weird animals because the pines are. It's very sandy there, so only certain kinds of trees can grow easily. But people have said, sworn up, and there goes the yellow. Have sworn up and down they've seen this Jersey Devil flying around. Although if you listen to their, it's supposed to be like a horse face and wings and hands and hooves, which doesn't make any sense because any animal that has wings doesn't also have a set of arms, right? With the exception of like insects, but no mammal, no mammalian species, or avian species for that matter, that has, what do you call it? Arm-like appendages or wings has another set of arms. It's either arms or wings, right? So think of like a vampire bat. The bats don't have a set of hands and a set of wings. They just have the wings. The wings are basically what evolved from what would have been hands or arms or paws or whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't make any sense. But you know what? Why ruin it for everybody? You know what I'm saying? No one wants these to be real more than me because it would mean the world is a fascinating and weird place, even weirder than we already know. But I have my doubts based on like Jersey's an incredibly dense place. Like there is not a single county in New Jersey that qualifies as an urban county because of the denseness of this state. Even places with horse farms and we are the Garden State. There's plenty of farms in Jersey, but even still, those counties are so densely populated that they don't really. Nothing counts as an urban county. Just crazy to me. But I go other places and I'll be like, oh wow, there's just like unincorporated, like the concept of unincorporated land between towns. It's kind of like a new idea to me because like where I grew up and even in the more rural places I would visit to go camping and whatnot, like everything's spoken for. It's either private land or it's state land or it's federal land or it's owned by a corporation. There's nothing that isn't spoken for. And the concept of that there might be like land that isn't owned by anyone or anything is laughable. There's like, I don't know, I remember taking a friend who was from Indiana to a bar across counties, and she was like, when are we going to leave town? I was like, honey, we've already gone through like 3 counties. She goes, there's no space between them. I was like, there's no space for anything. Why would there be space between towns? It's just more town, you know? But that's not when you're from Indiana where it's like, you know, open area and it's flat, like that makes perfect sense. But to someone like me, like, oh, why? Oh, no. No one's using this factory. It's probably going to be a Superfund site. Let's just tear it down and turn it into condos. You know, that's just the way it is in Jersey. Nothing is... Unless it's actively glowing, people are going to eventually move in there. It's just how we roll. Nothing gets wasted. We're like use every part of the buffalo. We use every part of the ground. Even if it's like kind of a bad idea. It's kind of looking cool. It's a little juvenile, but I'm not hating it. I was going to say I don't have any orange, but I do. I can't believe I don't have like any yellow. A real artist would have bought yellow. I'm joking. I am a real artist. Like I literally do this professionally. Got a graduate degree in art education. I'm technically as real as they come. But I really should have planned this out a little bit more. I'm just always so used to just using what I have and making do. You know, stretching everything. But ooh, this feels like trash. you can't, I don't know if you can hear the scratchiness, but this brush, the bristles on this brush are super, super hard. So it just feels really terrible in this basically end piece of wood. It's a real rough cut piece of wood that someone probably bought at like a Michael's or something to make it like country chic or whatnot. I don't know what that's called. Where you own a house in the burbs, so you try and make it look like a homestead, even though like that's not what they really look like. Nostalgia for a time that never existed. All right, I'm so you can tell like my painting gets worse the more I talk, but that's why I drew it out first and tried to figure this out. Yeah, the one problem, like I said before, like if you are painting on an unprimed surface, you are, whoa, did I just break that brush? Maybe. Ooh. It soaks in so fast. So I think like maybe if I hit this up later on, I might be able to get away with, oh yeah, that is this brush. Oh no, I don't like this brush though. I mean, it's a piece of junk, but it's my piece of junk. All right, let's see. All right, let's try and find a dark blue. Ultramarine. This might not be dark enough. This might be too bright. I have to add a little black to this. Yeah, that's like okay. I want to try and make this like a space scene, but I think right now we're still at the point where we're laying out color. Like I might come back in and use some brat green, you know, to do this grass later on. See, this is why I prefer, this is why I like liquid paint, because this is like trying to rub toothpaste on a surface. And I think that's totally fine if you're doing just details and you're using tiny brushes or you're using like palette knives, but like for a wash, this is like dumb. Man. If only I had the power to not use this paint and go look for a bottle of blue. I definitely have a bottle of blue somewhere. Probably in my pile of stuff I packed for camp. I barely used any blue for the project, so I definitely have some, but nope. I'm gonna just stick to the plan. Sorry for raising my voice. I don't know. I'm monitoring myself on another device, my iPad, while my phone is doing the recording. Normally what I used to do was I'd stream to my laptop, and then I'd stream a video feed from my laptop, and then stream that feed to YouTube. But I sometimes don't do things for so long that I forget how I did them originally. Like, I bought all this podcast equipment, and I'm sitting there going, like, I don't remember how to do this. I had a podcast in, like, the early 2000s for, like, almost 10 years, and I'm like, I don't think any of this technology works anymore. I don't think I know what I'm doing. Like, back in the day, we just, like, streamed to Blogspot and made the RSS feed that way, and I don't even know how you do it nowadays. People got podcasts on YouTube that I don't know how any of this works anymore. I'm getting old. I need to just find a teenager. Like that's what they used to do back in the day, right? Like you didn't know if your VCR didn't work, you just get a young person who lived in your home. I mean, back then that was me. I was the young person who knew how to like set the VCR. But I gotta find a young person who knows how to like set up a stream, a feed for a podcast, because it is no longer 2008. Oh, maybe I should have made this sky pink. I don't know. I think I'm just going to add purple right on top of this. Oh, I'm starting to smear this blue. And this white. Oh, no. Actually, that's kind of neat. Now I got Pink Pony Club in my head again. It's so funny. I know it's Brat Summer, but I like listened to like 3 Charlie XCX songs. It's like club music, which is fine, but I don't want to listen to that when I'm not, you know, if I'm not going to be dancing, what's the point? I'd rather, like if I'm trying to keep pace when I'm running, I'm going to listen to like punk or hip hop or metal. That's why Pink Pony Club is kind of more my jam. It's a good sing-along song. You can dance to it, obviously, but what's the other one that's really good? Phenomenon. I'm probably not even pronouncing it correctly. Oh, there's all over my pants. Luckily, I don't care about these shorts. But it's too hot in this room to be. Does this say how long I've been doing this for? Nah, dog. I'm definitely going to throw this into the YouTube feed anyway, so if you're watching this after the fact, sorry. I'll try and set up like an actual weekly or bi-weekly thing, because now that I set up this is just leaning against the wall. I've been using my drafting table for painting lately, and then my last few projects have not been painting, they've been sculptural. But I decided, like, I have this like $300 easel that I used all the proceeds from a public art project I did a few years ago. I'm like, I should really be using this thing. This is like nice. And it's really nice to look straight on to a painting, because then I end up distorting it a lot less. But my oldest is being creepy. I can see you. Yeah, well, leave a comment then. I'm not actually mad, I just thought it was funny. Sorry. You know what it is? I have like no tone change. Like when I'm joking and when I'm angry, everyone's like, oh, you were upset and then you made a joke, so we didn't know what happened. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know what happened either. I just, as an art teacher, right, you don't want to like emote too much, because kids are really in tune with your reaction to things. And you don't want to accidentally, like, give them emotional feedback when they're maybe not ready for it. And you also don't, like, I don't want them to, like, get used to trying to, like, the last thing I want is a room full of children just trying to make me happy. Like, that's not creative. That's just, like, let's paint something that Mr. LaMorte likes. That's dumb. So even if I'm really excited about something, I won't like emote, but I will verbally tell them this is coming out really good. Because also you don't want to do the reverse either, where you're wincing because they messed up something, because like you gotta have a little bit of a poker face. They're children, you know. They, you know, are looking for your approval. They can't help it. It's just the way we've been. I think it's like an evolutionary thing. But also, like, the other problem you get is that, like, oh no, I was looking at Sally's painting and I was way more jovial when I was talking to her about her artwork. Little Billy's going to think I don't like his work as much, and you don't want to create competition between kids. I personally don't think art should be a competition, but I think there's reasons either way you can go for it. Sorry, I like painting the edges of my paintings a lot. I'm kind of obsessed with it. Like if I have depth, I might. But you don't want these kids thinking like, oh, Mr. LaMorte smiled more when he talked to her, so maybe he really secretly hates him and he's just like trying to be nice. It's like, no, I'm just like, sometimes when I react to something, it's more to do with like something I'm thinking about than what the kids are doing, but also like, I want to just try and give them a chance to like, the best part of art is you want to try and please yourself before you do anything else. Like, sure, I know, I'm not dumb, like you need money. Paint is not cheap, and it's not getting any cheaper. Thanks, Michaels. But, like it is somewhat of a competition. You are often competing for space, but you don't want to create that with children. It's not how they should be learning, right? That there's a time and a place for that, and that is not the classroom. The classroom's got to be a place where they can feel comfortable and grow and try new things and make mistakes. Kids got to make mistakes in the classroom. That's where you got to be making mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, but Dave, what about child athletes? Like, yeah, exactly. Right? You don't like, there are competitions, like exhibitions or playoffs or, the regular competitions schedule, right? I just like saying schedule, like schedule, like I'm some posh British guy. But that's fine. Like, that's great. You want your football team to win, but like, they got to make those mistakes in practice. Otherwise, they make those mistakes when they get onto the field. So in my mind, the art room is where you practice, or the studio is where you practice. I just don't really personally like competition when it comes to creative fields, even though I'm going to destroy all of my enemies. And who says that? It's not station manager Ken. Andy from 7 Second Delay on WFMU used to say this benediction. He's the creator of Monk. He hired Tom Sharpling to be a writer on Monk because he was like, this dude is so funny. And I'm a huge Tom Sharpling fan. But his benediction is, may my friends' projects fail, but may I always be seen as a team player. Sorry, it's so dumb. Like, I want to succeed, but I also want everyone to win. I know you're thinking like, oh, Dave, you're such a hippie, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I'm a hater. I'm like a hater by nature. Most of the times when as anyone who watches football with me knows, that I usually want both teams to lose. Because I'm a longtime Jets fan and they have not really, they've had great seasons, but they haven't been to the Super Bowl in a really long time. Definitely, I think before I was born. And I just often want whatever team there to lose. But whatever. It's kind of looking neat, actually. I don't like the glare on the dang screen. I hate it. Oh, the angle. So, whatever. I set up this light for me, I guess, but it looks really glary on... it looks really glary on the video feed. All right, do me a favor. If you're in the chat or you're on watching this live, if you could write something in the chat, that'd be awesome. So I'm not totally sure I'm not talking to myself. Even though I keep getting messages from my oldest child trying to like freak me out. Guess what, Rose? It's working. Oh, I shouldn't say their name. Guess what? Unnamed child, it's working. But yeah, I'm kind of digging this now. I'm really gonna have to go in and put a lot more time into a lot of these details. This is gonna be. This painting's gonna probably take me a few days. This painting's gonna probably take me a few days. Make those rounder. No, oh my gosh, I totally ruined that. Whatever. I'm gonna make this alien more brat anyway. I'll see what I can do, kid. Alright, oh man. Alright, I don't know how I'd mess this up. Alright, they're annoying orange. Alright, so let's keep going with this. Oh, I probably shouldn't. I should have figured out a shadow, actually. Let's just do that now. Just fake it for now. Normally when I do a flying saucer, I'll put a tractor beam or something coming out the bottom of it, but we'll see. Actually, I think I'm gonna bring this purple down a little bit. Let's put these birdies in the sky. No, I'm gonna bring the horizon down a little bit. I think I just arbitrarily put this line here, and I don't know if that actually was a good plan. My thought was I was going to make this part of the Cryptid Mountain series. So it's a YouTube series, it's a sculpture, it's eventually going to be maybe a podcast. I kind of want to redo it as a... what do you call it? As almost like a radio play. There's this guy, Alex, who does this thing called the Raconteur, and he does like these on-stage radio plays. And I love radio plays. I really love I love podcasts, like audio podcasts particularly. So I was thinking like, oh, I should just turn this. I wouldn't perform it live. I don't really want to perform this. I don't want to have to get caught up in all of the technical parts of performing live, but I do like the idea of recording to live to tape, or whatever you want to call it, live to solid state, whatever, and then editing it down into an audio podcast. I feel like that'd be fun, like old-timey radio. Pigeons have like weird coloring, right? Yeah. And the problem with this weird texture, it doesn't really hold the detail as much as I would like. But we'll get there. So these pigeons are going to kind of look like this pigeon, if that makes any sense. It'll trust the process. You know what I'm saying? Picking up what I'm putting down. It's Rome wasn't built in a day. This painting is not going to look like it'll make any sense until, we get there. All right. Well, that's happening. Let's take a slightly nicer brush. I'm going to go over this skull. So my plan was I was going to number all of these paintings. So this is going to be kind of inspired by the idea that, like, I don't know if you've... I'm a huge conspiracy fan. I like to think of myself as like a conspiracy realist. I love the stories, but I'm not convinced any of them are true. And I mean, some of them are probably loosely based on science or people's understanding of things, but come on, let's be real. The more I learn about government as an adult, the less faith I have that they could really get away with anything if they wanted to. I think eventually people just like die. But alas, I'm getting away from what I was talking about. So there's this conspiracy theory that Bigfoot is actually like kind of like an alien starseed. Like the idea being that like Bigfoot might be the reason why we can't find Bigfoot is not because Bigfoot does not exist, but we can't find Bigfoot because he's actually a trans-dimensional being. That Bigfoot lives between this world and another one and can zap himself or herself or themselves away, which I think is hilarious. Because if you've read the Harry Potter books, J.K. Rowling and her weird turf wisdom, before the wizarding world had the Muggle technology of plumbing. I don't know if you know. I'm probably telling you stuff you already know, but like the way it would work is that if you had to defecate, you had to evacuate your bowels. The idea would be that you would evacuate. I was told on the floor. It was probably in like a bedpan or something, and then you'd like abracadabra it away, which I think is hilarious. And so essentially, there are people out there who think that the reason why we don't find any scat, right? Like if you're doing real scientific research, biological, zoological research on an animal, and essentially until we meet Big Feet and they teach us their language, they're going to basically be animals. That the reason why we can't, normally you look for things like scat. You look for footprints, and the footprints that they find don't make any sense because of the way the animal animal that size would have to walk, right? Like, it doesn't totally fit what scientists would assume the physiology of something that large would be. But that's a whole nother discussion, and I'm not qualified to even talk about that. But I am qualified to talk about, like, when you find an animal, right, you usually find its excrement. Its scat is what we used to call it in the Boy Scouts. And that was an indication that animal lived in the area, because animals, for their own safety, would hide from humans because of, perceived predators. And I think for the most part we were actual predators. But like if Bigfoot was real, we'd be finding the poop everywhere. An animal that size would be leaving giant piles behind. Disgusting. Like I've seen way more rabbit poop than I've seen rabbits, and I've seen a lot of rabbits. But so there's some people who think that because Bigfoot might be trans-dimensional, that it is abracadabraing their poopy to another dimension, which I think is hilarious. I love that idea. There's also some people who think that Bigfoot might be some kind of experiment left here by extraterrestrials. Some people believe that if you go for that whole ancient aliens hypothesis of human society, right? It's incredibly racist. And I'm not saying those people who follow ancient or believe in ancient aliens are racist, but I think in if you look at the theory on its face, it's very it assumes that ancient people, especially ancient people from non-European societies could never have built all those things that they definitely built. Which is crazy to me because, like, we are literally operating with the same software. I know we're operating with the same hardware as those people from thousands of years ago, right? So, like, it doesn't surprise me considering all the stuff that people are creatively able to create in modern society that like the I have no doubt that ancient Egyptians could have figured out the pyramids with enough time and expertise and written language, right? The idea is that you kind of build off of the learning of previous generations, right? But, you know, I love the idea that like Bigfoot might be actually a space alien and that's why we can't catch him because he's actually teleporting away before we can get our little grubby hands on him. Which just creates so many more implications. This is why with pseudoscience can be very hilarious because to justify people's belief that something is the way it is, you often have to do like cartwheels and make all kinds of weird logical leaps and ignore obvious flaws in the theory just to get just to make some of these very dumb ideas make any sense, you know. And that's why I like science, because like science, a lot of that retesting and having second opinions and having what's it called? When they do other people will try and recreate the studies and look at other people's data to make sure that like their hypotheses and their findings make any sense. You know, like there's the reason why it takes so long is because people are trying to be careful and they don't want to start giving out misinformation. But, you know, if you're just making stuff up whole cloth, I mean, go crazy, I guess, right? Go off, king. Oh, yeah. Birds aren't real and aliens left Bigfoot here. They were like a failed experiment, or maybe they were actually supposed to be the ones in charge of this planet, you know? Who knows? Who knows, right? Not me. I am but a simple artist and art teacher. That's above my pay grade. We did not learn about Bigfoot in grad school. Should have. I would have taught that class, actually, probably knowing me. Alright. Let's see. I might have to go back later and add more details to some of this. Actually, maybe I should just outline some of this stuff now while I'm at it. Alright, let's take a skinny brush. This might not be the right brush for this, but super thin. I'm just going to add a highlight to this and to this pigeon. It'll just help me differentiate later where the background begins and the pigeon ends. I actually think those will be good. I'm probably going to end up painting over this, but it'll allow me to, what do you call it? It'll allow me to have a crisper edge later. And at least for now, it'll help me differentiate, like, the saucer from the bird. Bird. You know, the edges sometimes get a little rough. And I'm definitely going to go over this white later, but it'll help me make, I think it'll help me make these lines, the edges of things really crisp. Because really, right, if you're thinking about it, like, objects don't have hard edges, right? Objects they don't have like dark lines like cartoons do, right? The line is there to simulate the edge of something, but if you're using color, you shouldn't really have to use a line. But there's plenty of artists who take that kind of graphic style into their work. See, look, I already messed this up. That's all right. That's part of the process. But I think it'll help me later when this dries and I want to start making these colors a little bit crisper. I think because I didn't sand this, I'm going to have to use a ton of paint. Who knows? I might end up hating this and sanding this off and starting over and doing something else. That's my prerogative. I do what I want. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to destroy your painting and start over. And that's not like me being negative. I actually sometimes think that's the most positive thing you can do. I think artists often have this sunk cost fallacy of like, well, I put so much time into something that like it would be a complete loss if I just dumped it and moved on to something that would actually make me happier. I used to be like that a lot. I would just be like, oh, you know, I don't want to undo all this stuff. Like, oh, whatever, who cares? If you hate the painting, you know, you can save the surface and just reuse it, or make it part of something else, or cut it up and turn it into a sculpture. I mean, it doesn't, you know, you spend time doing your art, so your craft, so you had that experience, and that was probably great. But like, you know, don't have to like, you know, give each individual piece too much weight, because then you'll drive yourself crazy. Like, if I have to sand this off, it's not going to hurt a real pigeon. This is not a real pigeon. This is just a bunch of splotches of paint on a piece of wood that probably would have gotten thrown out otherwise. Like, the white of this skull is way, 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 way too wet for me to be, like, really getting into the detail here. But, you know, I gotta add some of it. I can mess around with it a little bit. Right? That's fine. And then when it's dry, I can go in there again and either add white or make it gray. And then I'm going to put a Roman numeral on the front of it. I think I'm going to do these almost like the Stations of the Cross. I love that idea of like using the paintings to literally tell the story of the, oh, it's too thin of a brush now for that amount of, to tell the story of the Jersey Devil or tell the story of Cryptid Mountain. So the first series of Cryptid Mountain is all about the Jersey Devil and him trying to find out why he exists. He meets Bigfoot, who becomes his mentor, and then they decide that they're going to try and go all the way to the top of Jersey City, at the top of Cryptid Mountain, to talk to the Muffler Man, because he's been there since before anyone can remember, and he probably has the answers to their issues, right? So basically, like, if you it's like Dante's Inferno, where the Jersey Devil's Dante, he wakes up in hell, and Virgil is being played by the the Bigfoot, and Virgil in Dante's Inferno was Dante's teacher who had already passed and was living in hell because he was not a Christian. Also, I think because he was a homosexual. But that gets into other crazy stuff I'm not even going to get into. I'm just kind of using the Dante's Inferno as my archetype because so much of Western storytelling kind of apes Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. And it's funny how much like influence it's also had on actual people's belief in religion. Like a lot of Dante just like made stuff up that did not actually reflect the church, because at that time, there was just a church. He was an Italian living in Florence. But I think what I really liked about the idea of stealing the format of Dante's Inferno was because like Dante was really obsessed with his hometown of Florence, because there was a war going on in Florence, and back then Italy wasn't a country, it was a series of city-states, and he was exiled because he supported the wrong group of dudes, and so he was kind of using this as a way to, he was using his writing as a way of getting back at his enemies. And it's just so funny, like, because every few lines in every few stanzas, he's like, "Oh, what if you know of Florence?" And like, Dante, you're talking to a bunch of people who are like condemned to hell. If anything, you're the last person here who's been to Florence. You should be updating them. But he's just so obsessed with the place he lives. He's so proud, and he's so upset by the turn that's happened with the war that he's made. Basically, the whole Divine Comedy is like this 1500s hit piece. And if you go through the history of it, almost everyone who's being tortured in Inferno or Hell are all people that were like real people that he had beef with. Just really funny, and it's such an influential story, But I thought, why have him climbing out of the pit of hell? That's not really. I'm not very religious, as much as I love the idea of like hell. Seems kind of metal, That's me being raised Catholic kind of makes me very interested in that story and stuff, but I don't really believe in it. So I thought, and also I don't want to make it too close to Dante's Inferno, because I don't want people thinking that I'm trying to necessarily like challenge their view of religion, even though technically Dante was not a religious scholar. He was a poet who had beef with a bunch of other Italians, which is like the most Italian thing ever. That dude held a grudge. However, so I kind of use this. That's why my character is going up the mountain and not down into hell. But no, it's not looking too bad as I'm looking at the screen. You're right. I don't think I'm gonna do this for this much longer because I'm getting kind of tired. I don't even know what time. Oh, it's almost 10 o'clock. It's almost my bedtime. I'm just joking, but I gotta get up early tomorrow. All right. So I'm going over this. And I decided I'm gonna paint over the flying saucer when I come back because I'm not crazy about the texture. One problem with using such a rough piece of wood to paint on, right? Like, is that if I want to try and make the flying saucer look, otherworldly or saucery or, smooth and shiny, like I might actually have to, come in and actually just sand just the saucer itself. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this over in white. I'll leave a little gap around the skull so I don't lose it. And then I'll come back to this. I think part of the problem is also I'm kind of painting against the grain because this wood is just like, it's basically like, it's like pallet wood. It's trash. I mean, you can do a lot with pallet wood. There's a lot of people who do projects with it online, but like those people have to put a lot of time in to prep that wood for their projects, or they cover it in paint, or it's something that's going to really take a beating anyway. So this is kind of like that kind of quality of wood. It's probably some kind of like soft wood like pine. It's probably super cheap. I made in a sweatshop or something in Bangladesh or Thailand or Vietnam. Just what they had on whatever available to them. So I'm going to paint this white, and eventually I'll come back in with a natural silver. Because the gray I put on the flying saucer, right, is like what do you call it? It's this Amsterdam iridescent silver. What is this? Graphite. Yeah, it actually kind of acts like graphite. I don't know if you can see it has like almost like a fine, glittery texture to it. So part of me wants to like emphasize that a little bit more. I definitely want to add more. I definitely want to make him a little bit more yellowy. And these eyes are not dark enough. But it's not terrible. I am still kind of proud of this, so. Let's add some random stars just so I don't lose the plot here. It's too much of a glop. I'll probably paint over some of these. And anything that's on the edge, I will just paint a line. I almost want to try and make it look like the painting kind of shot back, but whatever. We'll get there. This is probably where we're gonna leave it, man. Right? No, I can't leave anything. I'm gonna overwork it a little bit, and then I'm gonna wake up in the morning and go, what was I thinking? Oh my god. I'm gonna make these eyes actually jet black. Oh, you know what I should do? Really want to make these pigeons' eyes almost red. This orange I have is very, very, very yellowy. Oh no, this is like too red. You know what? That'll be alright. I'll fix that later. Alright, and I want to make this red. Oh, the other conspiracy theory I was thinking about. There's a lot of people who believe that the gray aliens. Alright, alien. I shouldn't be using that word. It's kind of racist, right? Alien means someone who's foreign. Right? That's assuming a lot about these creatures. We really should be calling them extraterrestrial. Whatever. But, you gotta be nice. You gotta be polite. But, because some people believe that they may not actually be from another planet. Maybe they're just from another dimension. They're from here, and they live parallel to us. The idea of like multiverses. I don't want to go into shift talk or any of that malarkey, but some people there are extraterrestrial theorists out there who believe that it's very likely that these creatures may not be actually Oh, that would have been, in theory, blue. That would have been better for the sky. I might redo that. What happened to my Mars black? I had like 4 Mars blacks that I put aside. Now I can't find any of them. Here we go. I have a liquid Mars black, but let's stick with the. That's a bright yellow. Oh. All right, I'll save that. I'm sorry. I get excited for this when I find this stuff. I mean, I know, like, if I should have been. Bone black might be good. No, let's just use this. This is definitely gonna be lighter than a normal black, but that's okay. I think there's like a Payne's gray in a black, but there's some people that theorize that these little green men or grays are actually not aliens themselves, but like some kind of like avatar. Like they're robots that are maybe biological robots that are being operated by another intelligence or a the idea that they're robots that are being piloted by other beings in another dimension or on another planet. Right? Think of it like the Earth is like light years away from any planet that has similar, Goldilocks planets that are like just right for carbon-based life. So instead of sending a bunch of carbon-based life forms from another galaxy, they send a bunch of these essentially robots, and they're like remotely, like drones, they're remotely piloted from wherever they live. And I love that idea. I think that is hilarious. The idea that like everyone is afraid of these aliens and they're just like the robots. They're just like, oh yeah, we're not gonna make it. It's too long. Let's send the Roombas. I love that idea so much. But whatever. This is all theory, based on the problem with a lot of these conspiracy theories is they just use each other. A lot of conspiracy theorists. And I'm not using that as a derogative because I don't think that's. I think people should question the world around you. I think people should be intellectually curious about the world around you. I don't think you should take anything for granted. I just think it should be based in science. Okay, there's my soapbox. Let me get down from it. A lot of these conspiracy theorists, like me, right? The problem is when you're not using like scientific method, they end up quoting each other. So you'll find that like people will say, "Oh, studies show," or according to this author, X, Y, and Z has happened, and then you find out that actually it's the same. It's an echo chamber, or it's like a game of telephone where all these dudes and dudettes are like just quoting each other and using each other as the source, and then you're like, oh, so this is actually based on nothing. But whatever. It could be worse, I guess, but at least they're reading. But, I love that idea that the possibility that these are not even, like, real. They're just, they're little avatars, like you're sending your little video game character to explore because it would take generations to get here. Love that idea. Love that idea. Oh my gosh. That would be so interesting. There's a Chris Pine movie out that's like that, where they're like on the ship. One of the Chris's, I don't know, I can't keep track anymore. One of the superhero guys, the guy who plays, I don't know actually. Scarlett Johansson's in the movie, and basically like they're on it takes so long for them to fly to wherever they're going in space that they're put into suspended animation. And then, but in this idea, like, well, it takes so long to get to Earth that they're not going to send living beings. They're going to send robots, and they'll just remotely control them rather than trying to, like, send a bunch of people and their descendants arriving eventually. Like, a weird form of, like, Noah's Ark. All right. I'm getting too much into the weeds. I need to get some sleep. I got a big day tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. I hope I didn't bore you too much. No, actually, I don't care if I bored you. That's on you. I think I'll probably put a faster version of this on YouTube and do like a supercut of this whole painting. But yeah, shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Patreon.com/LaMorte can get you all the stuff for Cryptid Mountain stickers every month, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I should give away one of these paintings too. Yeah, I'm loving this actually. This is getting good. Now that I'm starting to like this, I need to stop. Oh well, that's just the nature of being an artist. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at David LaMorte. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/David LaMorte. What's the other one? Patreon.com/LaMorte. And you go to davidlamorte.com, you get most of my details. So that's it from me. Peace out. Now I have to actually get up and stop this thing. Let me try not to bang into it while I do it.